Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Neurotech Mindmap. My name is Pedro, I'm an electronic engineer, and today we want to take a tour in this multidisciplinary mind map. The goal of this video is a call for collaboration. I want to show you what exactly we need in order to complete this mind map. It is absolutely not a one-man job because forming and organizing the information is one problem and knowing what to add here is another. Since this is a super complicated field, we need experts related to each individual field. Alright, first let me show some of the main changes compared to last version. Then we dive deep into the contents. Alright, the app that we are using is called Mirror. So the link to this mind map is available here. So there are two links that you can click on it. One of them that you click, you just can see the mind map, but if you want to join the board like here and add it to your app and just do comments everywhere that you want and be updated about the changes, you can click on the other link. So you need to do a free registration and then you're in. So if you want to get updated from the changes that I do, follow me on the Twitter. I just tweet everything, every major thing that I add here, and I tweet them. There are of course some online handout about some of the parts, mostly because I'm an electronic engineer. I add information about the analog circuit design, but I have planned to add some people to do this for all of other fields. Alright, we also have the unofficial LinkedIn page. You can follow us in there, and yeah, we are also officially partnered with BCI guys, so I'm using their contents, and yeah, they have a dedicated section. You have some other individuals, but we need more people to add them here. So this is my YouTube channel. It's only one row of this is my content. The other rows are from videos from other creators, other experts that you can check them out, which are related to each field. So what are the fields that we want to look at? So obviously we have neuroscience, data science, biomedical engineering, and electronic engineering, computational neuroscience, and some other fields. But what do they do are highlighted here. By the way, I have planned to change this part to a comprehensive part, which is all of them are connected to each other. It will be added really soon. So the configuration is changed a bit compared to last version. I'm planning to add more space to each parts like this, and it is now made out of 3 mind maps. The data science mind map, which I added the link to some cheat sheets. You can just read them, and I eventually in the future add the contents from those cheat sheets to this mind map. But for now, they are really good that you can follow them and just learn everything from them. So the final goal can be to turn in this mind map into a cheat sheet, but this is an online one, and we have lots of review papers here that you can check them out. And the left side is IC design mind map. The digital section changed a bit. I've added more information, and yeah, the other parts are just like the last part. I might make a video dedicated to this part, but for now let's focus on the Neurotech mind map. By the way, there's this extra part that I added some videos about writing and how to study effectively, and there are some playlists about that you can listen to them when you're studying. There are some light music playlists. Alright, let's dive into this. So Neurotech mind map, it is really beautifully said by the BCI guys. What's a neurotechnology? In device that can images or stimulates the brain. So what's the brain computer interface? Communicate pathway between an enhanced or wired brain and external device. So yeah, so it means that we are connecting to the brain. So we need to know how this brain is functioning and what are its different parts. And the BCI layer and the BCI technology is a new layer to this brain that we are having. So there are some dedicated courses that you can follow their content. I highly recommend you to watch the crash course anatomy. This is one of the most simplest and most effective course that you can follow. All right, at the top of this part we have the companies and some academic research groups that you can check them out in your own time. So mainly this technology can be segregated into two main fields. One is just coping with brain, connecting with brain, and the other one is the copying the brain. So copying the brain, which means that we want to make hardware that can act like brain. And if you already familiar with the neural networks, which are the AI, and which are basically AI, those artificial intelligence can work on these hardwares. And then the hardware that we're using here is really close to what we use in the coping with brain size, but they have different goals, which we will take a look at it in the neurochip design. So the academic groups that I've added here, they are all related to electronic engineering somehow. There are other fields in these research groups, but these are some of the main ones. There are of course dedicated websites that can lead you to some other research groups. So this is the brain. We study the brain and we know how it works. After that, we need to model this brain to know how to interact with it. So for that, we have computational neuroscience. The computational neuroscience have been developing really well lately. So what mainly people do in this field is just modeling the neurons, astrocytes, and different part of the brain. So this is the modeling part. Then you have a spiking neural networks, which is just neural networks of those models. For example, a bunch of neurons connected to each other and doing some tasks. Then we have machine learning, which can be divided into two sections. One is just the learning techniques for those neural networks, and the other one is just knowing the patterns from the brain. And then after that, when we have devices that can stimulate the brain, they learn how to stimulate the brain. Those devices can learn. So this is the machine learning part. And after that, we have also cloud computing, which is still in infancy because the integration and the security is not that good currently. But yeah, these parts are also here. So there are some dedicated courses here that I have most of them on the YouTube channel in the VCI section that you can check out. So after that, we model the different part of the brain. We need to interface with it, which is the part that VCI guys covered really well. We have different type of interfacing with the brain. We have non-invasive, semi-invasive, invasive. And also these sections really relate that where we want to integrate with. We want to integrate with central nervous system or peripheral nervous system. The central nervous system is the brain and the spinal cord, but central nervous system is the sides of this. There are different methods, and each one of them has some advantages and disadvantages. I've added some videos about them that you can check them out. They just show you how to use these in action. So EEG is the one that is most common of them. It is non-invasive. It has relatively a good resolution, but not that high. It's currently not able to stimulate the brain because it is on the brain. For stimulation, we need to do some invasive tasks. And some advancements that is happening here is that people are developing some devices that work really perfectly with this part. Some companies that are doing these are Canon and Facebook, and some other companies as well. So after the non-invasive EEG, we have some semi-invasive, which are called ECOG. After that, we have fully invasive models. They are used for deep brain stimulation. They are a bit risky, but that's the path that Neuralink is taking for their company. So we talk about the invasive, but what is the electrode that they are using? A new section that is added here is about this one. This is a company that they are really famous on developing electrodes that are sensing these signals. Basically what these electrodes do is they just capture the signals in a proximity of that field. So as you can see here, it can get the signal from a range of perimeter that it is detecting, and these signals will be decoded, and that's what we get from the brain. That's how we get it from the brain. There are of course other type of interfacing. The most common device that is used is called MEMS, that you can check out this article, and there are different type of interfacing that are being used currently, and a list of them is here and with a review paper. Alright, so this is a quick introduction to the interfacing part. I don't want to just read from it, you can obviously go through it in your own time. So let's go to the next part. So after that we are interfaced with the brain. Now that we studied the brain, we modeled it, now we interfaced with it. So what should we do after that? So as you can see here, this is a new article that I found. It's a really good one. I just summarize everything here so we understand the organ and how it works, so we get the signal from it. And so there is two phases in what we do. One is the learning what we want to do, and second one is we just do what we want to do. So let me explain it a bit more. So what do I mean by learning? So we have a device here attached to the brain, get this signal, we analyze it with our computer, then that we know how it works, we make chipsets that can mimic their behavior. These chipsets can be analog, digital, or mixed signal. After that we have this chipset on our circuits that can copy their behavior, and we can stimulate the brain with the language of the brain. Alright, so for example, we have a neuron that is acting out, spiking or bursting. So we design a silicon chipset that can also have the same behavior, and then we have that chipset in our neurochip. So these kind of chipset that can mimic the behavior of the organ or a neuron, they are called neuromorphic and cytomorphic. Neuromorphic is mostly used for the neuron, and cytomorphic is mostly used for the behavior of the cell and the genetics. So this question might arise, that how accurate should we model these neurons or whatever we want to mimic them? There is a good video here, a link to it is here. Also, it is this one. I highly recommend you to check this one out. It just gives you a history of the neural networks and tell you how accurate we need to model these neurons and how accurate we need to model the brain. Alright, so we have neuromorphic and cytomorphic. They are used to act like the brain for the stimulation, but they are also used for neuromorphic computing, because these are work with spikes. And we have artificial intelligence. It is inspired by neural networks, so those artificial intelligence AIs can work on the hardware that is specifically acting like the software. So you probably can get where I'm going with this. So this is actually the brain, the silicon brain for the AI. And so far, the technology that we are making them, it can be with silicon, but it can also be with memory stones. To make memory stores physically, we need to do some 3D fabrication, which is getting promising these years. If you don't know about the 3D fabrication and memory stores and stuff like that, there is a dedicated playlist about memory stores. There are several professors that are talking about this. Definitely check it out and watch those workshops. Yeah, and there are some other review papers here, and the one that is really interesting for me is this one. So let us check it out in more details. So this is an electrode array, which are these 3D, these circles are memory stores. So memory stores can do process and have memory at the same time. This is actually one of the advantages over the ordinary or the typical computers, which the memory and the processor are separated from each other. each other. So we have the presynaptic drivers. These are some neurons that acting like, these are some silicon neurons that acting the way that we want. So this is presynaptic neuron. These are some memory stores, and these are postsynaptic neuron. As we already know, the memory is stored in this synaptic connection. So if this is a neuron and another neuron is attached to it, this is the soma and the dendrite. This is the axon, and the place where this axon is connected to another neuron, to the dendrite of another neuron, is called synaptic cleft. So this part is simulated with the memory stores, which is actually where the memory is stored, and this is the other parts. So here they are just what presynaptic neuron, postsynaptic neuron are doing. It's really interesting. Alright, so there is another field, electronics. There are some dedicated reference book that you can check them out, but there are of course more that we need to consider in order to this technology work, this interface work. This is not just work by just connecting them together. Lots of material science should work here. Alright, so let's do a quick review. So we have the neuroscience that study the brain. We have computational neuroscience that model the brain. So we have interfacing here. Then we have neuromorphic circuit design and biomedical engineering that they just fix this in interface and mimic this information. So we have also neurochips, which is, so these neurochips actually made out of different parts. They need to be secure, they need to provide their power, and they have power harvesting parts that are connected to them. These brain sensing can be monitoring the signals constantly, or they can just detect the spikes. So whenever the spikes happen, they have two thresholds that they can sense it right here. So they don't get the noise, they just get the spike, or they can just constantly monitor, which is like here. So these are two type of chips. After that, they can just stimulate the brain, which means they get the signal from the brain and stimulate the brain, or they can be in closed loop and they get the signal from the brain. For example, the spinal cord of a person is paralyzed and they want to move their hand but they can't, so we have another chipset in their hand and another chipset in the brain. These two chipsets can communicate with each other, and that person can move his hand or a robotic hand with his thoughts. Alright, so there are different parts to this neurochipset. This neurochipset should be attached to the sensor, to that MEMS sensors that we already talked about it. We need to have some low noise amplitudes. Then we need to have analog digital converters. After that, we have some digital parts. Then if we need, we can have some neuromorphic circuits here. If you want to just do some feedbacks to what is happening to the brain, we can have those neuromorphic hardwares in digital manners or in analog manners. The design in analog or digital, and then we have digital to analog converter, and we can just stimulate the brain the way we want. There are dedicated universities that are working on here. Currently added 3 of them here, but there are more, and I will be adding to this mind map. This was a quick introduction. I don't want to get into the details because it takes a long time and it's gonna get so complicated, but I might make individual videos about each part. So the neurochip part and the bioelectronic part can, if you want to know how to do the design, we need to now to look at the IC design mind map. So this is what I want to do. I want to have a dedicated mind map for each part of this mind map that we are talking about, but it needs expert for that. For example, if you want to design a sensor, or you want to analyze the data, EEG, or even if you want to make something that can interface with the brain, we need to have special people that are operating another mind map, for example, interfacing with brain mind map here, or like that. So this is data science. It's related to computational neuroscience, but it's a bit different. But after all, they are using the codes and machine learning techniques which the data science can be used for. So if you know anything about each part of here, you can just help me developing here. developing it. It will change a lot more in the future, which need more people to add information to it. Alright, thank you so much for watching and see you next time.